Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today is going to be another kind of costume Halloween tutorial. This was actually requested by one of my friends, David. Him and his wife are wanting to do something that's a little more 1940s, kind of World War II era themed costume, so I made this tutorial since they requested it. So this is going to be a pretty traditional 1940s makeup to the best of my knowledge. I did a bunch of research to kind of figure out what was still on trend, what was not available because of the war and other things like that. So if you'd like to see how to get this makeup look, then just keep watching. So we're going to start out with our base. I'm using Makeup Forever Matte Velvet in the shade number 20. Foundations in this day and age were very full coverage and very matte. Another thing that was very common is actually having a foundation that was about one shade darker than your skin tone. They kind of wanted that, what they'd call a glow, but there wasn't any shimmer. It wasn't like dewy nowadays. So I'm going for the shade 20 because that's about one shade darker than my skin tone. And you just want to work that all over the face, and I blend it just slightly down my neck, as you can see. But use anything that's pretty full coverage and that's matte. Or if it's not matte, we'll powder it later, so it won't really matter. I'm just using a beauty blender just to blend a little bit better. As you can see, you can't really see my freckles or anything. It's a lot different than what I traditionally wear, but it works with the time frame we're doing. So they didn't necessarily have correctors back then, but I'm going to use a corrector just because I do have a lot of darkness under our eyes. So you can go ahead and do that as normal. And then you can also conceal. I'm going to use the Nars Radiant Creamy Concealer under my eyes, but you definitely can use just your foundation, especially if you have a full coverage one, because it's going to have enough coverage that you can use that to kind of conceal where needed. So you don't want to do any, like, if your concealer's lighter under your eyes, you don't want to do that like what's currently on trend, because that wasn't common back then. So now you want to powder, and don't skip this step because powder was definitely something that was always done. You take a powder puff, and a powder was normally one shade lighter than your skin tone. So foundation one shade darker, and your powder was one shade lighter. And then you would powder the entire face with a powder puff. So don't be afraid of the powder. And I'm just going to take a brush and just wipe off the excess, because you don't want like extra powder all over your face. I'm just using a Real Techniques blusher brush for that. So now I'm going to prime my eyes using the Nars Smudge Proof Primer. This was something that they would not have, however, because it's a Halloween costume. For the costumey part and the longevity of your shadows, you may want to prime your eyes. So now I'm going in with MAC Blanc type on a Sigma E60, a large shader. In the 1940s, at least in the early 1940s, there was not as much eyeshadow going on, so we just want to kind of even out our lid. So I'm using MAC Blanc type, but for you, if that's not close to your skin tone, just choose whatever color is closer to your skin tone, or put your foundation over it and use a powder. So now I'm taking a little bit of MAC Wedge on a Sigma Diffused Crease E38, and I'm just pushing that right into the crease, just so we have a little more definition. We don't want to do a lot of shadow just because that's not really common at this time. So for your brows started becoming filled in at this point. So you can either pencil or use a powder. From what I was reading, both were common. I'm using the Anastasia Brow Wiz in medium brown. You want to fill in your brows just where they naturally grow, but you do want to kind of define the arch. That was the thing that was kind of, it was known for. You want to have pretty natural looking brows. Don't overfill them, but don't have super thin brows either. But the arch of the brow was quite defined. So just using light strokes, and then I will blend it in really well with the spoolie, just to kind of get the natural kind of feel, but keep that arched area arched. Really, I should have used a powder that was closer to my hair color, but I do not have one. So choose something that's pretty close to your hair color, so it kind of looks like your brows were naturally just filled in and perfected with a little extra something something at the arch, and you will be perfect for this costume. So as you can see here, I'm using the Anastasia brow gel. However, if you want to be super, super perfect for the time frame, you could use Vaseline. So I'm just quickly coating my lashes with a coat of mascara. Unlike a lot of things you'll see online, eyeliner, like thick eyeliner, isn't really something that comes up in this time era yet. That's something that's come a little more on the 50s, so it's kind of like a weird mishmash of 40s and 50s. But mascara was normally cake mascara, so you do want to put some mascara on your lashes. Cake mascara is normally in a dark brown or black. I'm using the MAC Gigablack Lash in black. So now we're going to add a little bit of color. I'm going to go for red lipstick. Red lipsticks were very on trend. You'd get reds that were a little more brown, a little more pink, a little more true red. So you can see your nails would also match your rouge and your lipstick. So that's something to keep in mind. You're going to apply it kind of in this triangle area because that's what was very traditional. It was actually using cream blushes applied along the cheekbone, the middle of your iris, to your apples of your cheeks, and then you would blend that all together. I don't have a cream blush that is red, so I'm using Ben Nye Fire Red, and I'm using that on the blusher brush by Make Hair Addiction, and then I'm using a large contour by Sigma just to really diffuse that color and blend it out well. So you can choose red as well. You could go with a pink, you could go with kind of a brownish red. Just make sure that your nails match and your cheeks to your lips, and you're gonna look very cohesive, and it's gonna fit the theme really well. So just make sure you blend it out really well, and it's gonna stay towards the front of your face. It's not gonna be blended quite as far back as that you kind of see now. Keep that more in the apples. It's more of a natural flush. So now onto the lips. You're just going to really define the Cupid's bow. As you can see, I'm just making an X just to get those lines really sharp. And then right here, you're really gonna round out that spot right next to the Cupid's bow that was very traditional of the 1940s. Lip liners were definitely something that started to be used, and lips were slightly overdrawn with that really defined Cupid's bow and kind of rounded, very voluptuous lips. I have an in-depth tutorial on applying lipstick, which I will link somewhere on the screen here if you kind of want to see that, and then just alter the shape to fit the 1940s era. Another thing you're going to want to do is fill your lips in all the way. This is just because this is for a costume and you want it to last all night, so you don't have to deal with touching up your lips. So yeah, just make sure you got that shape really, really down. As you can see, I didn't really like my Cupid's bow, so I'm just making that really sharp. And then I'm just going to go along with MAC Ruby Woo, and I'm going to fill in my entire lips with that. Matte finishes were the finish for lipsticks in this time period, so make sure that you got something that's really, really matte. That's going to be the most authentic that you can get. So I just apply it with out of the tube, and then I'm going to go with a lip brush to just fill that in, because that'll be easier than trying to do the whole thing, but that's up to you. So just keep your lines sharp, keep your lips matte. If you do want a bit of a gloss and you want to still be very true to the times, you can use a little bit of Vaseline, because that was seen at times. So this is something that is not traditional to the 1940s, but it will keep your makeup in place for your costume, so throw on a little bit of a matte setting spray. So this is the finished look, as you can tell. I just have a couple more tips if you are going to make this into an entire costume. For hair tutorials, I don't really have a bunch of tips on that because I tried to do my hair 1940s style and then I gave up, and so this is what I was left with. But one thing to remember is colors for lips mostly were different tones of red. Some were a little more pink, a little more brown, more of a true red, and the formula was almost always matte. But the thing to remember mostly around that is that your rouge and your nail color would match. So I went for the red blush, obviously. You could always go for something that's a little more of a dusty pink if you're not into this kind of color, and you're kind of afraid of the red. So you can choose different lip colors, but red was very big. If this was a costume, you would want your lip color to match your nails. Might have a matte top coat that would not be the way to go. You'd either want to just leave just a coat of nail polish and nothing else, or just clear varnish over the top. Another thing to keep in mind was that nylon was scarce, so women used to wear nylons, but that was no longer an option, so they'd actually use like gravy browning or tea to stain their legs, and then they would take an eyeliner and draw a fake seam of the back. So if you were in a dress for your costume, that would be something else that would be very 1940s era. Just remember, all your makeup really matte, and if for some reason you want your lipstick to have like a gloss or keep your eyebrows or anything that you want to sheen, Vaseline would be the most traditional. So that's pretty much all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know if you liked it by giving it a thumbs up. You can follow me on my other forms of social media. Those will be in the down box below, as well as at the end of the channel. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I hope to see you again soon.